Good morning from St. Lucia. I think these little couple peaks right there are where we're going today. I think. I could be wrong. It looks very pretty.
Cappuccino or espresso? Cappuccino. I think we're going to order one is the buttermilk pancakes.
Yeah, the buttermilk pancakes will be, of course,
So pancakes.
Those of you with the kids, come on down, please.
Alright, this recap video is for St. Lucia, and this would have been Thursday of our cruise. So this was the one day that we did an excursion through the cruise line. I have very kind of mixed reviews about it, and we'll get to that. Kind of restarting the day though, same as always. Went to the Haven Bar for breakfast. Who's surprised? Not me. You quickly learn that the Haven food is like the best food on that whole ship. And with it being spring break, I wanted to avoid... Sorry, I'm trying to fix the lighting. Always adjust. There we go. I try to avoid the buffet at all costs because I didn't want myself touching utensils that other people were touching. That's just kind of gross to me. I know people use hand sanitizer, but people wipe their face and whatever in between, and I just didn't want to touch them. So went to the Haven, a restaurant for breakfast, and then as soon as the port opened up, we head down because our excursion was right away in the morning. So went down to the gangway area, and they had all sorts of signs for all the excursions. St. Lucia had a ton of excursions to choose from. I just knew that I wanted to go see the Pitons. Like, if you look up St. Lucia on Google, the first thing that pops up is the Pitons. And I was like, yep, sold. That's what we're going to do. So we went down to the main like pier area, told an NCL person like, hey, you're looking for between the Pitons Catamaran. Yep, great, over there. We stood there for a while, and we're like, are we in the right spot? Whatever. Eventually everything kind of got organized, and they're like, okay, this group of people follow that person down there. So they were gathering people for our excursion at like the front of the ship and the back of the ship. I think that was one that we were at the back of the ship, so we met with people up in the front of the ship. So that kind of had a disadvantage to it, and I will get to that as well. So we walked through kind of the St. Lucia shopping port area over to another little boat area where our catamaran was. Now, as we're standing in line, we're chatting with the person behind us who was like, oh, did you guys book this a while ago? Did you book it last minute? I was like, oh, I booked this months ago. I just knew I wanted to go see the Pitons. And she was like, oh, well, we booked this like literally last night just because we wanted something to do. And I was like, oh, I didn't really know much about it. I just know that we're going to go see the Pitons. And she was under the impression, or NCL is under the impression, that there was going to be multiple catamaran ships. There was just one. So if you are expecting like this intimate small catamaran tour to the Pitons, that is not what you're going to get. There was like 100 of us, I would say, on this catamaran. Maybe a little less, but she told us that in total there was 110 slots. It's hard for me to believe that there's 110 people on that catamaran. It didn't feel like that, but also we stayed in that kind of our own little area, so maybe there was, and I just didn't realize it. But kind of keep that in mind. If you feel like you think it's going to be a small little intimate catamaran, it's definitely not. So the con of us being towards the back of the line was we were obviously one of the last to get on the catamaran. So by the time we got on there, all the primo seats were taken. Basically, it left us sitting like on the net on the catamaran, which normally I'd be like, that is totally fine. Like, I'm A-okay with that. But I had my camera, I wanted good footage, and I didn't want to get soaking wet, and I didn't really know like how wet we were going to get sitting there. Luckily, where we were in those first few clips, we're pretty far from like any of the splash zone that was going there. But if I were to have sat like a little bit further up, I would have definitely gotten wet and gotten the camera wet. So that was kind of the downfall of being the last. You didn't really get your pick of the litter with seats. What that tour consisted of, though, is we stopped at a couple different places before we went to the Pitons. So the first place we went to was just kind of this beautiful, like, grove area, or grotto. I don't know what the word is. And apparently lots of movies had been filmed there. So we went there, and then you can tell, like, I stood up at some point and got some clips of some things. There goes my lighting again. Brighten. There we go. And then we went to another little area that was just for swimming. Like we were going to get 30 minutes to just get out of the catamaran and swim around the ocean. As I said in the last video, Brayden was absolutely fried after the Barbados, like even more fried than he already was. So he opted to stay on the catamaran and just hang out because he was like, I do not need any more sun than I already got. So he hung out and kind of stole some spots from people for me, but I appreciated it. So while I went in the water for a little bit, he got me a seat so I could take some good video and get some good pictures after the fact. So shout out to the fiance for that. So we were there for about 30 minutes, got back on the catamaran, and at this point they started serving alcohol. They just didn't want to be liable. Like if you start drinking alcohol before you got in the water and something happened, like totally understand. So they had big things of rum punch, and I think I had like 3 of them. Brayden had, I think, 5. Because they just kept handing them to us. And they're free. So we kept on going to the Pitons and finally got there. And got good video picture of it, which was great. Again, shout out Brayden for snatching me a seat. But we sat there in the boat for maybe like 10 minutes or so. And then they turned the catamaran around, and then we headed back to kind of the main cruise port area of St. Lucia. I think in total the excursion was like 3 hours. 3 or 3.5 hours. It was, I think, like the perfect amount. It wasn't too long, wasn't too short. We had heard other people that did like the land and sea Pitons tour. That thing was like 6 hours. I think I would have been exhausted by the end of that. And they said that they were in a car for like an hour and a half. So Brayden would have died. He could not have handled that. So we get back to the main port area. I really didn't do any research on St. Lucia just because I knew that we were going to do the catamaran tour, and I was like, we probably won't have a whole lot of time to go do anything else. So after we did a little shopping, took some pictures, we went back on the ship and enjoyed the lunch at the Haven restaurant, and then I hung out in the courtyard for a little bit. Brayden was at the bar hanging out with the bartender G, and then went back to the room and relaxed for a bit as well. And that was a-okay with me. That was when Brayden made me try this horrible drink. It was so spicy, and I I went to G and I was like, how dare you make this for him? Because he made me try this crap. So, and then that night we went to Shanghai for dinner, which was the Asian restaurant on board. Loved it. I don't think that's one our next cruise has on it. I'm kind of sad about it, but it was delicious. I feel like out of all of the places that we went to 4 specialty restaurants. Obviously, we didn't pay for any of them just because it was included in the package, but I feel like that one you get the most bang for your buck. Like, you could have ordered 3 appetizers and then an entree and then a dessert. That's a lot of freaking food. And the appetizers are like full-on sushi rolls. So, it was so good. Loved it. Would definitely eat that again. And Brayden loved it as well. So, that was really that for the night. Nothing wild and crazy after that. Yeah, we just hung out like we always did. Nothing crazy, but we had a good time in St. Lucia. It's definitely on the possibility of a honeymoon spot in the future, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it definitely lived up to my expectations, and I was happy about it.